Hello, friends. I'm Chris. I'm from Transformation Nation Yoga and Wellness. So, with my next level human members, I've identified a need for this Dharma talk on a topic of the three root causes of disease, at least according to Ayurveda. And I've sort of kept this little slideshow in my back pocket in case I come up short on a meeting. But we just finished our sixth meeting. We covered habit 5 from Body Thrive, and so far the content discussion for the meetings isn't really allowing for this. And I want to make sure I'm putting this content out there. But I also want to make this available to a broader audience in case you do have an interest. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to deliver a short Dharma talk on the three root causes of dis-ease according to Ayurveda. So what follows is my 2021 understanding on this topic. So full transparency and disclosure, friends, the way that I understand these teaching and principles, although I had heard of them and had some familiarity with them 3 to 5 years ago, my understanding has changed and evolved. And if I understand the trajectory I'm on right now correctly, my current understanding will probably start to seem pretty obsolete sometime in the future, maybe as near as a year, maybe in the next 3 to 5 years. But based on my 2021 understanding of these teachings, in the Eastern healing traditions, such as Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine, we have this phrase, dis-ease. So the way that I understand this is dis-ease is sort of a condition that happens to denote a really subtle change in our system, right? So from an Ayurvedic standpoint, this is probably going to be result in ama or confusion in the body, which I think of as pretty synonymous with inflammation. And if we look at the roots of the language, the prefix dis means having a negative or reversing force, and the root word ease is free from difficulty, effort, or trouble. So this is a negative force on a state of being free from difficulty, effort, or trouble. So what can happen is that over time, if we have these subtle changes of dis-ease, eventually they will manifest as a fully diagnosable disease by the standards of Western medicine. And according to Ayurveda, there are three root causes of disease. And the first one is Prajna Paratha. And this is basically making negligent choices. So when we consistently make decisions that ignore our past experience, that ignore the common sense that we've developed over time, it creates confusion in the system. It results in inflammation in a positive feedback loop. Now, what is a positive feedback loop? Positive feedback loop is a principle from biological sciences. And on the surface, it sounds like it might be a good thing because it sounds like the result might be positive, but that's not necessarily the way that this works. When this happens, we go from being in a state of balance and we have some kind of effector come up that changes that, it puts us into imbalance. And that state of imbalance makes it more likely that we'll have more effectors in the future that will lead to more imbalance. So this ties in the way that I understand it to the universal law of polarity, where like increases like and opposites reduce each other. So if I make a negligent choice today, it's more likely I've increased the chances and I've set up causes and conditions that facilitate me making a negligent choice tomorrow as well. Whereas is if I made a negligent choice yesterday and I make a more conscious and intentional choice today, it reduces both the inflammation, the inflammatory effect of my negligent choice. It also reduces the likelihood that I'll make that choice tomorrow. So how does this manifest in our current habits in our lives? When I was a young man, when I was in my drinking age, a friend of mine, Justin, we used to have this joke, and Justin used to say, "Yes, I was hungover yesterday, and yes, I will be hungover tomorrow because I never learn." Right? And we thought that was really funny at the time. But we do this in lots of different ways, right? So, for example, if we know we have a trigger food that probably is not good for our health, and ultimately after it might be fun to eat in the moment, but we don't feel well afterwards. Like so, for a lot of people, this is either a sweet food like ice cream, or a salty food like chips. We know that like our all of our experience tells us that this is going to make us not feel well, and we continue to eat it anyway. This is Prajna Paratha. This is making a negligent choice. Again, it really results in inflammation, and we set up causes and conditions that facilitate us making more of similar negligent choices in the future. The second cause of disease is Assetment Samyoga, and this is disrespecting your senses. So like the first cause of disease, this also results in ama, in confusion in our system, which I think of as virtually synonymous with inflammation. It also blocks the consciousness. So, what does disrespecting our senses look like? So, when we do something that we know is not good for our sense organs. So, when I was a young man during my military service, I used to love listening to angry music, and I'd listen to angry music for hours, go at the start of the day feeling just fine, and then be confused why a few hours later I was in such a terrible mood. I was in an angry mood. Um, the noise from that music, it was too loud, and the tone and the vibration of that music didn't feel good for my vibration. So I was disrespecting my senses. But we do this with things that we put in our mouths. When we eat things that we know that our sense organs, like our tongue, tells us isn't good for us. We do this when we take on too much screen time. So maybe choosing Netflix and staying up too late in lieu of sleeping, in lieu of getting a full and restful night of sleep, or even using our devices, our cell phones, in our laptop computers past an hour that we know makes sense for our bodies. This is asatmentriyata samyoga. This is disrespecting our senses. And the third cause of disease is parinama. This is the process or movement of time, and this is basically living in violation with the rhythms of nature. So we do this when we consistently stay up too late. We know typically we feel better if we get to bed at a reasonable hour. So if we're asleep by 9 or 10 o'clock at night and we're up by 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, when we consistently feel ourselves out of this rhythm, it it creates an inflammatory response in the body. It creates ama. It creates confusion. Um, when we eat foods that are not in season, right? So we live in this global marketplace. And yes, we absolutely can eat bananas and strawberries in February. We can get them, but should we be? When I think about what is eating in rhythm with nature, what does that look like? I think a lot of what it looks like for me is what was it that my grandparents and my great grandparents were eating in eastern and northern Maine, um, 3 or 4 generations ago. And that's probably much closer. Like they ate potatoes during the winter because potatoes were a big crop in northern Maine. They would keep really well. They ate fresh vegetables during the summertime, and they would preserve some of those through canning and drying and things like that. They ate wild game that they would be able to harvest, or livestock animals, chickens, cows, and pigs that they were able to raise on the same farm. They knew the names of the animals, they knew what the animals were eating. So living in this way is my understanding of parinama and living in rhythm with nature. So again, when we fall out of this in any of these three habits, whether we're living in violation of nature, whether we're disrespecting our sense organs, or whether we're consistently making negligent choices, it creates a state of inflammation. It creates these subtle shifts and changes in our system that over time, when they accumulate, eventually will manifest as a fully diagnosable disease by the standards of Western medicine. Well, thank you, friends. Again, I'm Chris. I'm from Transformation Nation Yoga and Wellness. And I wanted to tell you about my 12-month Ayurvedic health coaching program, Next Level Human. So, this is a year long program. And what we do is we bring in members and we create this dynamic group, and we work together to implement these simple lifestyle habits of the ancient yogis, right? So if they're so simple, why do we need to enroll in this program? It's a really good question. It's a question that I would ask as well. Simple as they may be, these habits are really difficult to automate on our own in isolation. So the way that we do this is two things, three things really. The first is repetition. So we're working through a 12-week program a total of 4 times. Our experience is that most of the time our members at best are able to implement two or three and automate two or three of these habits after the first pass through the program. So 3 more passes through means that we get to go deeper into those habits that we automate early in the program, but we also have for those other, what, 7 to 8 habits, we have a chance to work on automating those as well. Each of the habits also, there's what I consider to be like a really superficial layer that we could automate, and we could call ourselves successful in that habit at that point. But they also, it's like an onion, and they're much, much deeper than that as well. So having 4 full passes through this program gives us the opportunity to go really deep. So if one or more of these habits really speak to us, we can really dig into that. So that's the repetition is one reason why we see really dramatic um, results from our members. The second reason is that we create this dynamic group. So again, in isolation, like maybe we can automate some habits, but it's really tough. But instead, we've got this dynamic group. So we meet every week, either through Zoom or we can check out the recording later. We talk about principles of habit evolution. We talk about the habit of the week, but we celebrate our wins. So if one of us has a win from the previous week, we all celebrate that together. If one of us stumbles and falls, the whole rest of the group is ready to rally to pick us back up, to help us dust us off, get us back on our feet, and get us back progressing. So it's accountability and it's support. And the third reason is we use the best available social science on the principles of human habit evolution, right? So my teacher, my mentor, Kate Stillman, has studied the social science between human habit evolution for years, and she's distilled all this wisdom into a system that's teachable, and that's what we share with our members. So right now, as of this recording, it's November 7th, 2021. I'm currently screening potential members to start with our January cohort. So, like, who might be interested in a program like this? Well, I would say, first of all, if you don't already have fully automated habits that are working for you, you stand to benefit tremendously from this program. But people in particular who could benefit, people who struggle to easily maintain an optimal body composition, people with digestive issues, people who struggle to get a good night's sleep, people with chronic systemic inflammation, which, if you're not familiar with that, Google that. That is crazy. That's the, like, all the boogeyman illnesses of our time: obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's disease rather. The common factor with all of those is chronic systemic inflammation. So how does this manifest in our body? It might be poor digestion. It might be we wake up in the morning and it's really hard to get ourselves going. It might be we feel we've got puffy eyes. All of these and many other things could be potential symptoms of chronic systemic inflammation. But also people who have too much compression in their lives. So they're too busy in their mind, they're too busy in their calendar, they need to create space. So if any of those things sound like you, or they sound like someone that you know, I would love to talk to you. So click the link in our bio. You can set up a free 30-minute strategy session, and we can talk through what your challenges are. I can help you with some strategies right then on that call, but we can also talk more about Next Level Human and see if you are a good fit for our community and for this program, and if this program is a good fit for you. Thanks once again, friends, for making time for this Dharma talk, and I hope that you have an amazing day today.